The coronation of the King of England. There's a lot going on. I should drop this accent. All these rites and rituals. Swords. There's so many swords. Plus lots of jewels. And if you're here, you'd like to know what the heck is going on. Why are there all these things? What do they all mean? What's the history behind it? Well, I got you, bud. First, just a quick rundown on coronations. So coronation is just a ritual to make someone king. It's been done in Westminster Abbey since 1066, starting with William the Conqueror. Possible King Harold before William the Conqueror also did it, but we don't have exact evidence proving it. There were coronations before that, but since William the Conqueror, all coronations have been done at Westminster Abbey with a few exceptions. It's been 1,000 years of these royals doing these rites and rituals to show their domination and divine right of kings over the people of Great Britain. This is the last royal family in Europe to continue doing coronations. All the rest of the royalty of Europe have switched to doing inaugurations similar to that of the President of the United States. Under King Charles' dominion is all public lands in the UK as well as all commonwealths, all the dolphins and swans in Great Britain, plus all the oceans and mineral rights therein, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. An estimated cost between 100 and 200 million pounds. This is a big ceremony. Some people are kind of upset about that for obvious reasons. His coronation is supposed to be a little bit shorter than his mother's. However, it's still supposed to be a full day. The crown jewels are some of the most important parts of the ceremony. They're worth hundreds of millions of dollars just in scrap, but they have a really interesting history as well. Here are some of my favorite items of the 142 crown jewel pieces. First, there's 2 royal maces made in 1660 and 1665 to show the power and authority of the king, and the authority to bop people on the head and control over parliament. Then there's lots of swords. So many swords. 3 swords. Not these swords, but 3 swords nonetheless. Be a true king and subscribe. These symbolize mercy and temporal and spiritual justice. The mercy sword is blunt on the end to show that it's not stabbing anybody. These are from 1629. Also a few other swords, including Sword of State, representing his power. There's quite a bit about power and authority in this whole thing, being the King of England and all. Subscribe to be one of the early adopters in the faithful 10,000. My first 10,000 subs on YouTube. Let's do it. Another one of my personal favorites, is the staff. But nobody knows what the staff stands for. They just know that they've been using it for a really long time, so they just keep using it. This is the staff of St. Edward's. Also the coronation spoon. This spoon is the oldest of all the crown jewels. It is the only one to survive being melted down, like the rest of them, by Oliver Cromwell during the English Civil War, where Cromwell freed the English people from the tyranny of the king. That was short-lived, and the new king came back and did all of it again, and that's why we're here. But this spoon, this magical spoon, is 900 years old. What's funny about this spoon as well is they don't know what its original purpose was. They assume that it was for something, but they don't really know. So they use it for anointing. They put a little bit of oil on it and then they put it on the king's head. One of the big crowning moments, pun intended, is the investitures, where they basically just give him a bunch of stuff. First off, golden spurs. Not like cowboy spurs, like old-timey medieval spurs. They don't spin, so it's not as cool. These are also from after Cromwell. Get another sword. There's just so many swords. Next, the armels, which are bracelets from 1661, representing sincerity and wisdom. Next up, the Holy Hand Grenade. Sorry, I mean the Sovereign's Orb. This represents his power over the Church of England. Next, we have the Sovereign's Ring, which puts all Super Bowl rings to shame. Then he gets 2 scepters, because 1 scepter is not enough. At this point, he gets his crown. This crown is worth over $100 million in just scrap in terms of gemstones and precious metals. It's over 5 pounds. 5 pounds in weight, and was originally made in 1220. But once again, it had to be rebuilt in 1661. Now, his crowning will be a little bit different than the movie Johnny English. However, Rowan Atkinson will be there, as he is a knight and commander of the British Empire. So we still have a chance to live out Johnny English in real life. Near the end of the ceremony, he's going to switch out to a different crown, because what's a king without many, many crowns? The Imperial State Crown, made in 1937. A little bit lighter, and not so fancy, but still extremely fancy. Now, it's probably enough to talk about jewelry. The Queen also does a whole ceremony of her own. She also gets a whole bunch of jewels, but that's the most important one because he is the king. Now, one of my favorite parts is the coronation chair. This chair goes all the way back to 1296, the Gothic era, which is why the chair looks so cool. Inside this chair is the Stone of Destiny, or the Stone of Scone, which is a sandstone block from Scotland. I do think it's hilarious that the most important rock in Britain is called a scone. Now this rock was originally stolen from Scotland. It was held in London up until 1995, where they brought it back to Scotland for everything except coronations. Now this block of sandstone, legends say, comes from the Holy Land from many thousands of years ago. He's then going to be leaving the coronation at Westminster Abbey and getting into Golden State coach, not the basketball team, just a really ornate coach, built in 1762. One of the newest things in the coronation. Going to be a part of a big giant parade all the way back to Buckingham Palace. Then they're going to have some fun parties. And that's your basic rundown of all this stuff. Lots of expensive things, old things, interesting bits of history, but you know what to look out for if you're watching any clips. Be a true king and subscribe.